What's up, Gotcha Gamers, and today we're here to talk about your favorite mommy, Kafka. I'm sorry, I mean your favorite lightning mommy that might dominate you if you act the wrong way, and she'll never let you get none, but trust me, it'll be worth it. Anyways, let's talk about your favorite Dom Mommy Kafka today if you actually plan on pulling for her on this banner. I don't really recommend it, the banner's not that good, but if you want your Dom Mommy Kafka and you haven't gotten her already, she can be one hell of a unit. She's really easy to build for free-to-play players in my opinion, and she just works well on so many teams in so many different situations. She's a really universal character. I know some people put her really low on tier list, but I think she is a really good, one of the best characters in the game in my opinion. In today's video, we're going to talk about everything you need as far as Lightcones, best synergies, who are best relic sets and relic stats and everything like that. But first, I want to talk about kind of what she does and give a skill breakdown. For those who don't know, there will be timestamps in the video. If you want to skip back this part, feel free to do that. But let's go ahead and talk about exactly what she does right now, because she is a lightning mommy and she's getting better with the more time she's in the game. So just briefly going over her skills, what her skill is going to do is she's going to be targeting one enemy and hitting adjacent enemies. This will also be reprocking the dot that's currently on that enemy as well. So if you have a lot of dots on that character, you'll be reprocking a certain percentage of that dot on top of that. So yeah, if you have high dot counts, then this will come in clutch. Now this does not offer any type of dot using the skill, so generally you want her to go second in rotation so you can get her talent, which is what we're going to talk about now, because whenever she activates her talent, she'll be using a follow-up attack. That means you use a basic attack with one of your other allies. For one time until her turn, she'll be launching a follow-up attack, which has a 100% base chance to shock the enemy, which this is the equivalent of what the ultimate will do as well, which this can be really good for getting a lot of extra damage out, and on top of that, applying that shock dot to the enemy as well. And this all feeds into the ultimate, and this is what makes her so good, because whenever she uses the ultimate, she attacks every single enemy on the field. Is a 100% base chance to shock all of those enemies, and on top of that, she'll be reprocking all of those dots currently on all of the enemies at the same exact time. Your ultimate feeds directly into your talent, because whatever the lightning dot is you get from the ultimate will also apply to the talent as well. Now with all that out of the way, let's kind of talk about her traces now and how the traces play into her kit as well. The first one is the most important one, because this is the one that allows you to trigger all the dots at once. Meaning if you don't have this, you're not triggering any other dots like your wind dot, bleed dot, fire dot, anything like that. You need this talent right here. This is an absolutely essential. You need this for her kit. And not to say that any of the other ones you don't need, but this is for sure something you need. Hopping into the next one now is whenever a shocked enemy is defeated, she gets 5 extra energy back. So that means if you use an AoE attack, which inherently will shock all the enemies if your effect hit rate's high enough, you don't really need that much of it. This will be getting 5 energy back to really help power her ult back up. And the final one also helps her out quite a bit as well, because this will be increasing the base chance she's able to apply shock from her ultimate technique or talent triggered follow-up attack. So this is just going to be really good in ensuring that you can shock the enemies and brings that effect hit rate requirement down even lower. Let's go ahead and talk about her light cones. What light cones should you be using? Kafka, should you be summoning for her light cone? Should you be getting her E1? What's the case? What's the breakdown here? What's the best for her? Now, in my humble opinion, I have a S5 good night sleep well, so I would never pull for her light cone, even though it does give her a lot, like speed, attack, and just extra dot on the enemy as well. It helps her out a lot. It helps her push a lot of extra damage out, but not to say that good night sleep well doesn't do that, because good night sleep well at an S3 will actually be on par with what her light cone can do damage wise. So if you do have this light cone at S3, I would definitely recommend that. Very, very good option there. But like I said, her signature light cone is really good. It gives her extra speed to reach her speed minimums, especially with the relic set we're going to talk about for her in a second here. Other light cones you can use here though would be something like solitary healing, which is another free-to-play option. You get this from the Herta store, and this Herta store light cone can be really good, because at an S5 is going to be increasing the wearer's break effect by 40%. Whenever the wearer uses an ultimate, increases the dot dealt by 48% from that wearer. That means her lightning dot will be increased by 48% damage. And on top of this, whenever someone dies with a dot debuff on them, or if you reproc that dot, she'll be getting 6 extra energy back as well. So this is all around a really good light cone for her. Let's go ahead and hop off those light cones now, and let's go ahead and talk about what her best synergies are. Who should you be using her on a team with? Who does she work well with? Well, there's actually a lot of characters that work really well with her. I'll go ahead and start off with some of these support characters that work really well for her first. And first of all, Ruan Mei. If you pulled for Ruan Mei actually helps out a lot, because it increases damage and it also defense shreds the enemy, or resistance shreds the enemy, which means your dots do increase damage. and you're proccing higher dots with all of your characters, so she's just doing an insane amount more damage with this. Also, breaking is really essential for dot characters as well because it inherently infects the dot on that character, so Ruan Mei can be a really good option for her. Another really good option here would be Asta. The reason Asta here is because Asta gives an attack boost. Her skill, whenever she gets her little nodes up, it gives her an attack boost, and attack boost inherently affects the amount of dot on the enemy, which anything that increases the dot will increase the rest of the team's damage, or increase Kafka's damage for that matter. Also, she increases speed as well, which just makes your Kafka go even faster and have her turn cycle more, which means you're able to get her ult back up more. Asta's actually a really good option. Yes, she has a small chance as well with her basic attack to inflict a fire dot on the enemy. I mean, it's really not that high, but extra dot on the enemy, am I right? This can also help out with the gear set we're going to talk about later. And finally, Hanya. Hanya works really well because Hanya's ultimate increases attack and speed. This is really just going to be used on Kafka. Oh my god. Oh, I got drawn away. I'm sorry. Anyways, back to her face. Back to her eyes. Look at her eyes. Don't look down here. Anyways, her being able to increase attack and being more SP generative or regenerating SP makes her a really good option all around because you increase dots like this. Now, as far as the other options in the Harmony category, they really aren't that good. You're not really going to use a Yukong here. Tingyun could work here. Bronya could work here, but these are the main options that I recommend in the Harmony category. Any dot-based character is going to work really well with her. Characters like Sampo, Luca, Bunaifen, and probably Black Swan when she comes out. These are all characters that work really well for her. They put dots on the enemies. They have their own thing to help with dot in the first place or do more damage with their own dots. So these are all really good characters. You usually run Kafka on the team with one of these dots that match the elemental typing so you can reproc the dots off on those enemies to get massive damage from your Kafka. Another option you could run the team would be someone like Topaz and Noombi because Topaz increases follow-up damage. What does she do? She does follow-up damage. She also helps Topaz reproc her follow-up attack. So there are just many good options you can run with a Kafka, and the number of teams that she's able to be run on is just growing. Every single patch they release a new DPS into the game. I feel like most of these characters that do more outside of just like dealing big dick damage is just gonna make more room for her to be on a team, because it's just insane. But with those synergies out of the way, and before we hop into these relics, I would like to ask you guys to please hit that subscribe button if you've made it to this point in the video, or maybe you just got scammed by this little timestamp here. Anyways, guys, I would much appreciate if you hit that subscribe button, and yeah, let's hop into these relics now. And I do want to make something very clear here. Her best in slot relic set is going to completely depend on the team you're running her on. If you're running her on a dot team, then a 4-piece Prisoner of the Deep confinement is going to be good because you cannot get the full defense shred if you don't have 3 different dots on the enemy or 3 different instances of dot on the enemy. So if you're not running a dot team, then this is not a good idea. Her second best in slot, or I guess more universal set, honestly that works really well and is really comparable, is the 4-piece follow-up set, because her follow-up attack you can activate it every single turn, and she's able to get just about max stacks every time she does this. So this is a big attack boost. And what does attack boost do? It increases your dot damage. So this is gonna be a huge attack buff for her, increasing her dot damage as well. If you're not into all that and you have a lightning set will also work. Also 4-piece of the musketeer will also work. She's just a really easy character to build because any set you really farm for her, whether that be the lightning set, you're getting Purity Palace if you have a Japard. Realistically though, you're probably going to be farming for Prisoner or the follow-up set, which will help both classes of characters out, and Musketeer as well, which you get for free from just doing stuff in the game weekly, like the weekly bosses and stuff, so you can get some pretty good pieces here as well. Now let's go ahead and talk about that planar set. Her best planar set here is going to be Glameth. Glameth gives an attack buff, which is really nice for her. On top of this, it'll be increasing her damage she deals based off of the amount of speed she has. That's why you want her to be super fast. At 160 speed, she increases her damage by 18%, so this is really big, and this is something you should be trying to reach on your Kafka to get the highest dot possible. Now let's go ahead and talk about some of those main and substats you're going to be wanting for your Kafka. For the boots, you're going to be wanting speed boots because you're going to be wanting to run her as fast as possible, especially if you're running Glameth. Now if you're not running Glameth, you don't necessarily have to run speed boots here. You could run attack boots if you're running Space Healing Station, which is her second best in slot planar set, but I do recommend speed boots. You want her to be as fast as possible because the more she comes up, the more you can reproc dots off before those dots expire on the enemy, or you just really want to reproc the dots as much as possible. So I do recommend speed over attack here. Now for that body piece, I would recommend just attack percentage here. Attack percentage here is just really going to boost the amount of dots she's able to put out on her own, which means a bigger source of damage that she can do by herself without really having to rely on the other dot characters. You could run crit rate, crit damage here if you're running a Kritka, but I do recommend Dotka over over Kritka. It really just depends on the comp. I feel like the Dotka is a more universal comp than Kritka is. Now the Link Rope is going to be attack percentage as well. You want to stack as much attack percentage as possible on your Kafka so she's able to hit some big dick damage with her lightning dots. Finally, for the orb, you thought I was going to say attack here. Absolutely not, guys. You want to run lightning damage boost here. Lightning damage boost is going to give a higher multiplier than an attack percent boost here for your lightning dots and just overall damage for Kafka. So run your lightning damage boost here. Now, let's go ahead and hop into some of those substats you're going to be wanting. Number one is going to be speed, guys. Just focus on getting speed for your Kafka. This is going to be the number one thing. Like I said, Glamith requires a 160 speed. If you're running an Os on the team, this is obviously going to be really, really easy to hit. Or if you're running a Hanya for that matter. But you want to be reaching a 160 speed here. So just try your best, your darndest, to get that 160 speed. That's what I would recommend. Now, the next substat is going to be attack percentage to boost her lightning dot as much as possible. You'll want to be aiming for around a 3,300 attack stat. I would say 3,000 is a bare minimum required to meet. You're going to be missing out a lot of damage like this, but I would say 3,000 is a bare minimum. You want to be aiming for around 3,300 attack stat here. And really, other than this, other stats you can run would be effect hit rate, especially if you have E1, you are going to be needing to build at least some effect hit rate into her kit. At E0, S0, you'll really only need about 12 to 20% effect hit rate. You really don't need that much, but if you get higher Eidolon for her, then you are going to need higher effect hit rate. That's going to be around like a 40% effect hit rate there. The final subset you could run here would be break effect or crit damage or crit rate, depending if you're running a crit build or not. It's really going to depend on like how you're running your Kafka is how you want to run these substats. Kritka equals crit rate, crit damage. If you're not running Kritka, then just run the things I mentioned before. But before your mind strays too far from these substats talking about effect hit rate, let's go ahead and talk about E1 versus S1. Now, guys, this is a pretty big debate here, and if you're watching this video after the fact, after she came out, then this probably doesn't make much sense, or it doesn't really matter to you. But anyways, let's talk about E1 versus S1. Me personally, I think the light cone is better, even though E1 does net you more damage. I think overall the light cone is better just because you can use this on multiple agility units. With E1, you can only use that on her. Right, I think that's a given, but I think the extra speed it provides can help really any other dot character out, or really any other agility character out, on top of the other stats it's already doing. So I do recommend her signature light cone over E1. That's just a personal preference there if you wanted my opinion on it, but I will say that E1 does do a little bit more damage because it will increase the amount of dot damage that can be done to the enemy. Anyways, gamers, if you enjoyed this Dom Mommy Kafka guide, then please give us a subscribe to the channel. It would be much appreciated, and I'm sure she would dominate you if you did that as well, so make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe and join the Discord for the giveaway for Black Swan in version 2.0, and I am checking out now, so yeah, I'm sure you're checking her out too, so see you guys later. Bye bye.